Alright, hey boys and girls. So we're going to go ahead and look into a new art project today, and we're also going to be talking about a new element of art. So elements of art is just basically things that artists use to create their artwork and kind of create more meaning into their artwork. And there's a bunch of different ones. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about texture. Now, some of you may know what texture is. When we look at texture, all that means is what something feels like. So, for example, I'm drawing a glass of water. If you've ever felt a glass feels smooth. Another example would be sandpaper. Sandpaper feels rough and kind of pointy a little bit. A brick wall feels hard, also very rough, and cotton feels soft. So different things like that are examples of texture. And you feel texture in your daily life. You feel it all around you all the time. Now you can draw texture. So for example, you can draw what wood looks like using squiggly lines. Or you can find texture in your homes and use a crayon to actually create that texture. And that's what we'll be doing today. We'll be finding different textures. We'll be using art crayons to rub over the paper, and that'll then create the texture that we're trying to do. But first, before we go on our texture scavenger hunt, which is what we'll call it for today, I want to give you the steps on how to create and how to draw our texture turtles. Now, the texture turtles, the drawing itself is not really difficult, and I think we've actually done more challenging drawings in the past. But this isn't the point. We know that this is just a turtle that we're going to be drawing for today. What I really want you to get out of this drawing is experimenting with finding the textures later on. But to start, all you need is a blank piece of paper and a pencil and a black marker. Right now what I'm doing is I am sketching out the shell of my turtle. And please remember, the bigger you draw, the better. So if you draw super duper tiny, you're never going to be able to fill up your entire turtle shell with beautiful textures. So my shell takes up pretty much the entire page because I want my focus to be on my turtle shell. And of course, if you mess up, make sure you're drawing lightly so that you can always erase any mistakes that you make. So we have our very adorable little turtle shell. I'm going to go ahead and draw the head to my turtle, which is just a nice little bump up above. You can make it bigger or you can make it smaller, it's up to you. Next we'll add the little flippers to our turtle. So here I'll be drawing the top one. And if yours happens to go off the paper, that's okay. It's only because we're drawing big. If it doesn't fit in there, you can always let it go off the paper. And all that does is help you imagine that there's something happening off the paper that we just can't see. So definitely use your creativity. If you'd like to draw nice big flippers, that's fine. You can do that too. Like my left one definitely goes off the paper a little bit, and that's okay because I'm drawing them big. Then I'll go ahead and draw my back ones. And here we'll get into one of the most important steps is drawing the shell and drawing extra pieces of the shell so that we can add different types of texture on the inside. And I'm creating kind of like this rim around the shell to start. Then what I'll do is I'll draw a hexagon in the middle of my turtle shell. And all a hexagon is a shape with 6 sides to it. So one at the top, one on the left and on the right, then the bottom left and the bottom right, and then one at the bottom. So 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom. Then I'm going to connect these nice curvy lines from each point of my hexagon and bring them all the way out to the outside part of the shell. And if it helps you think of what shape the hexagon is, it's kind of like what you would see in a soccer ball. It's the same similar shape, so if that helps you any. Then I will connect some extra lines on the inside there, only because I want to have some more shapes and some more textures going on the inside of my turtle shell. Makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun to fill out. Alright, great, so our shell is finished for now. And I'm going to add some details. So I forgot his little tail. I can't forget his cute little tail. And then I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm going to draw some eyes and little nostrils on my turtle's face to give it more detail and more character. And he's going to be looking very adorable here in a second. And because our turtle is not quite a realistic turtle, as in it's not something that we would necessarily see exactly look like this in real life, you can kind of choose what eyes you'd like to give him or her. You can add what kind of details you'd like to give it. He's a cartoon turtle, and it doesn't really matter what kind of details you add to its face, as long as he has this little turtle shell that we can fill in with textures. Next, I'll find a black marker, and I'm just going to trace over all of my lines with this black marker. And I'll see you in a second to start our texture scavenger hunt. Now, the whole reason I'm calling it a texture scavenger hunt is because you actually have to look around your apartment to find textures that work. So, for example, this is the texture of my wall, and I'm going to lay my piece of paper over top of the wall, and I'm going to take a crayon and just color right over top. And what that's doing is it's actually creating an impression on the paper with my crayon, and I'm getting all of that texture that I can see off my wall onto my piece of paper. And I'm using a few different colors here. I'm using yellow, orange, and brown. Obviously, turtle shells are usually more of a brown color, but I figured because this is more of a creative and fun piece, I'm using these kind of nice, neutral, warm colors. You can use what colors you would like to. If you'd like to make a shell all brown, you can, but I would definitely suggest finding different textures, as many textures as you can. So for my wall one, I actually did a few of them with this texture, and then I'm going to go ahead and skip to another texture to fill out the rest of it. The next one I found was actually the kind of wood floor that I have at my home, and I'm going to use yellow. It's a little tough to see at first, but if you look closely, you can actually see some of the grain from this kind of fake wood at my place. And you can see the lines that it's creating. And definitely don't push too hard. If you're pushing too hard, you will not get the texture that you're trying to get. Some other really good examples are tile. You can try with different types of blankets. Some of them have some textures. Toys like Legos. Anything you can really think about that you can find around the house. Also, you can try going outside as well. And maybe if your house has wood or brick or cement somewhere, just experiment. And if you don't want to go directly onto your turtle, you can always practice on a separate piece of paper as well too. Alright, so welcome back. I hope you found some interesting textures throughout your home. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am just going to finish coloring my turtle in some greens and some blues, and I'm also going to color the background. I'm actually just going to speed through the rest of this because you know how to color by now. I'm just showing you how I went about the finished piece of my texture turtle. If you'd like to, you can always paint your background if you have watercolor paints at home. That's completely up to you, and if you live with that at home, I would suggest it if it's something that you'd like to experiment with painting the background, because I know you probably don't get to paint that often in these projects, but from here on out, I'm just going to go ahead and color the rest of it with crayons. And again, if you would like to use textures throughout the entire thing, instead of just the turtle shell, that's also completely fine. You know, turtles are more on the scaly side because they are reptiles. You can try to find a scaly type texture to fill out the rest of your turtle with. It's all completely up to you, however you'd like to finish your turtle textures. But I can't wait to see your final product. I hope you have a great time with this kind of mini scavenger hunt around your home. Have a good time with it, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with later on. And enjoy!